The Bible mentions it in a single verse and then goes silent. The Archangel Michael and Satan locked in a dispute over a dead man's body. Not a battle of swords, a battle of words. And even Michael himself didn't dare go further than he did. Who was this dead man? And why would the devil himself fight an archangel over his corpse? Stay with me, because this one verse hides one of the strangest confrontations in all of Scripture. Moses had led an entire nation out of slavery, spoken with God face to face, and given Israel the law. And even at 120 years old, Scripture says his eyes were not weak, and his strength had not left him. He was not a man fading into death. He was strong, sharp, and fully alive, right up to the very end, which makes what happens next even stranger. Deuteronomy tells us something remarkable. Moses died on Mount Nebo, and God himself buried him. And to this day, no one knows where his grave is. Not a single soul. Not even the most faithful Israelites who loved him were told the location. In a culture that carefully preserved tombs and burial sites for generations, this silence is deliberate. God hid this body on purpose. And that decision is exactly what triggers the conflict we're about to witness. This is where the book of Jude picks up the story. The Archangel Michael was sent to attend to this sacred, hidden task, but he wasn't alone on that mountain. Satan showed up too, determined to interfere. Ancient Jewish tradition holds that Satan wanted the location of Moses' body exposed so it could be turned into an object of worship, twisting Israel's greatest leader into an idol. Michael's job was to stop that from happening. Satan didn't attack with force. He attacked with an accusation. He argued that Moses didn't deserve an honorable, hidden burial because decades earlier, Moses had killed an Egyptian slave driver in anger. In Satan's eyes, that made Moses a murderer, unworthy of God's mercy. It's the same tactic he still uses today, dragging up someone's worst moment to disqualify them from grace. But Michael wasn't there to argue that point at all. Here's the detail that changes everything. Jude tells us that even Michael, an archangel with far greater power and authority than Satan, did not dare bring a slanderous accusation against him. Instead, Michael simply said, "The Lord rebuke you." That's it. No insult, no power display, no trading accusation for accusation. Michael had every right to overpower Satan in that moment, and he chose restraint instead. This wasn't weakness. Michael understood something Satan didn't. Final judgment doesn't belong to angels. It belongs to God alone. By refusing to personally condemn Satan, Michael was pointing to a higher authority rather than seizing the moment for himself. It's a strange kind of strength, the strength to hold back power you actually have, because using it isn't your place. That's the real climax of this story, and most people miss it entirely. Faced with Michael's refusal to engage on his terms, Satan had nothing left to work with. There was no argument to escalate, no insult to provoke a reaction from. Ancient tradition holds that Satan simply withdrew, unable to expose the body or twist the moment into the chaos he wanted. The location of Moses' grave stayed hidden, exactly as God intended, protected not by force, but by Michael's discipline. Here's something worth knowing. Jude doesn't tell this story from scratch. He references it as something his original readers already knew, likely from an ancient Jewish text called the Assumption of Moses. That text itself isn't scripture, but Jude, writing under divine inspiration, confirms this specific event really happened, even while drawing the detail from outside the biblical canon. That distinction matters, and we're going to unpack it properly. This isn't unusual in Scripture. Paul quotes pagan Greek poets in Acts. Jude elsewhere references the book of Enoch. Referencing a source to confirm a true historical detail is different from declaring that entire source divinely inspired. Jude is telling us this specific event, Michael and Satan disputing over Moses' body, genuinely happened, while the rest of that ancient text remains outside the Bible's authority. That's a careful, deliberate distinction, not a contradiction. Some argue that if Jude quotes outside texts, those texts should be scripture too. But the test was never simply what's quoted. It's whether the text as a whole speaks with God's authority, confirmed through consistency, prophetic reliability, and the early church's careful discernment. A true detail can exist inside an uninspired book, the same way a historian today might state a true fact while writing an otherwise ordinary book. Another common question: why would a being as powerful as Michael even bother engaging Satan at all? Because spiritual authority isn't only about power, it's about order. Michael had a role to fulfill, protecting what God had hidden, and he fulfilled it exactly within his authority, no more and no less. Overstepping that boundary, even against Satan, would have been its own kind of disorder. Staying within his role was the entire point. This story reshapes how we should think about spiritual conflict entirely. It's not always about overwhelming force. Sometimes the greatest display of strength is restraint, refusing to fight on the enemy's terms and trusting a higher authority to judge rightly. Michael's example is a pattern believers are meant to notice. Engage where you're called to, but leave final judgment where it actually belongs. So this strange, single-verse mystery isn't a crack in the Bible's reliability. It's the opposite. It shows Scripture confidently affirming a real historical event, while still exercising careful discernment about which sources carry God's full authority. Jude doesn't ask us to blindly accept everything ancient Jewish tradition claimed. He confirms exactly one true detail and moves on with precision. Behind this single verse is a much larger truth. Unseen spiritual battles are happening around decisions we'll never fully understand in this life, over people, places, even the dead. And in every one of those battles, God's authority remains untouchable, regardless of how fiercely it's contested. Michael didn't need to prove that. He simply trusted it, which is exactly why Satan had no ground left to stand on. If an archangel could hold back from a fight he was fully capable of winning, trusting God to judge rightly in his own time, that's worth sitting with. Not every accusation thrown at you deserves a response in kind. Sometimes the strongest move of faith is refusing to fight on someone else's terms, and trusting the same authority Michael trusted. This isn't a story about who's stronger. It's a story about who stays within their place and who doesn't. Satan overstepped, grasping for authority that was never his. Michael held his ground exactly where he belonged and let God be God. That's the real ending of this ancient mountain confrontation. And it's still relevant to every quiet battle you're facing today. So, the next time someone brings up an accusation from your past to try to disqualify you, remember Michael on that mountain, restrained, resolved, and trusting a higher authority. But I want to hear from you. What other strange, single-verse mysteries in the Bible have made you pause like this one? Drop it in the comments, and it might be the next video on this channel. If this helped you see Scripture differently today, subscribe. We're just getting started.